Hello and welcome to Pompey Talk in partnership with Jan Leap. My name is Mark McMahon, and joining me on the sofa today to discuss Pompey's away trip to Oxford United is Jeff Marshman and Jordan Cross. Guys, I'll speak to you in a minute, but before we get into the nitty-gritty of tomorrow's events at the Kassam Stadium, let's see what Paul Cook had to say at yesterday's press conference.
Paul starting with squad latest and Gary Roberts, how big a blow is that to lose him?
No, you just keep going. You know, it's football, you don't make excuses, you just keep going. I've got no problems with it. We've got plenty of players waiting to play. You know, one man not playing offers another man a chance to play. So we're going very much to Oxford, looking forward to the game. You know, it's a really good game, and it's a game that we'll be putting a very strong team out in because that's the depth of our squad.
And what's proved is when one door's opened, another door's open for someone, isn't it? Because that's how your squad stepped in. I'll get there in the end.
These interviews are getting harder, darling.
I don't know what I'm saying half the time.
It's like a quiz.
That's what we try and do. We try. We'll not try and catch you out, but try, test you.
Obviously, we think we're doing okay.
The answers might get shorter. Last Saturday, did it provide more food for thought for you? The way that you changed it, and the way that, again, fresher faces coming into the side impressed?
No, I think if you look at football today and the way the game is and the way it's going, it's a mindset of people. I think we've all got to accept now that the way forward in games at home might be difficult. I think that's just the way it's going to be. That's not a criticism of any other team or anybody's tactics. It's just the way football is. Our job is not to make excuses, it's to overcome what's going to come. So we'll prepare the best we can with the players. If that means we change systems to win, we'll change systems. I think people have seen that already. If we can play the way we believe in and win, we'll do that. So whatever test comes up, we'll try and adjust to.
Because winning the difficult way, coming from behind to win against Barnet, you must have been pleased with the character that was shown last weekend.
I just think our lads have proved that now. In one of the big things in the short period we've all been together is that there is character within the group. I think that's been proved by the late goals that we've scored in not just obtaining a win, but also the point against Morecambe. That becomes a big point. So going forward, we can question certain things in every team, but not to question teams' character sometimes is a tough one. Certainly at the minute we haven't played all our lads. If you look at Adam Bartons and Naismiths and these type of players, McGee coming for his debut, we still don't know our best team. So going forward we must stay positive.
Do you still not know your best team, you think?
I've got a clue. I haven't genuinely got a clue. No, I wouldn't have a clue. Balances of teams and formations and having the right threats in the team. If we were to start with player A and B, would it make any difference to us? Not at all. I think over the period of time, once the dust settles on 10, 15, 20 league games, I think the league will have took a lot more shape, and hopefully we'll be where we want to be.
Okay, Jordy, we just seen Paul Cook's interview from yesterday. The major talking point in the build-up to the game is the fact that Gary Roberts isn't going to be playing, but at the same time too, Paul Cook isn't making a big deal about that there. He's got confidence in the rest of the squad to come in and step up.
You wouldn't expect him to say anything else, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, Gary Roberts is a key player. We've seen that last season. Interesting to see him come in for some criticism, say from a fan or two on social media, and then absolutely get knocked down by an array of other fans saying that he's been critical to the team this season, he's totally committed. But as one door closes, another opens, and Paul Cook's got a good 24-man squad. The debate now turns to who is the man to come in. You would probably look to Evans after him being dropped last week. Connor Chaplin taking his chance, you would have thought he could remain in the side. But Cal Naismith's been knocking the door in training, and that's a talking point. And then, of course, you've got the key factor of, as we've been talking about on the back page of the news today, the formation issue.
Yeah, Jeff, we'll talk on the options he has then, in that there are three behind the lone striker. Jordy mentioned Cal Naismith. There's Gareth Evans could come back in there. What do you think he'll go with on Saturday?
Well, it's interesting now because of Adam McGurk's sort of lone striking role, which came as a bit of a surprise, didn't it, against Barnet. We would have possibly thought that he'd be one that would go in behind a striker. Now that he's done well in that role, that then sort of takes him out of that pool if we're thinking that maybe he'll get that. Well, he could do still, couldn't he? Yeah, but if you're thinking that he's done enough to take that lone striking role, then the pool in which you've got to pick people from is shorter, and you're probably looking at then either Gareth Evans to come in or Cal Naismith, aren't you?
Yeah. Jordy, he also mentioned in the press conference that he does know his best team. Does that surprise you?
It does. I'm not quite sure how far you go down the road with that, because I was asked a question about this earlier in the week, and I almost find it kind of disrespectful for a manager to say he doesn't know his best team. I think he's a lot closer to knowing his best team than he's letting on when he says he doesn't have a clue. But what he is intimating there is that there are different ways of going about things. There's different permutations, and that's going to evolve. So that isn't evolve. And as we saw last week, McGurk, we were talking in Pompey Talk in extra time last week about the options, and we were kind of unanimously sort of saying about Tubbs. McGurk did not even come onto our radar.
Yeah.
That's something that he's been talking about and come back to on a number of occasions, along with the formation and Chaplin issue. But now, I mean, if you ask me, who's the best one to start of the options we've got up front, I would go for McGurk probably.
Would you go with that too, Jeff? Bearing in mind that Tubbs started the season in that role.
Yeah.
Jaden Stockley then played. Obviously, he missed last Saturday's game because of the birth of his child. Do you expect McGurk to hold off the competition from those two?
I think if you earn the shirt, you keep it, don't you? That's what football's all about. You don't really want to change too much a winning team. He's scored, he's played well, they've won 3-1 against Barnet, and for me, like Jordan said, I think he's done enough to keep the shirt. Start of the season, I would have thought Matt Tubbs would have been a shoo-in for that role, but for whatever reason, he's not getting the start. I mean, with Jaden Stockley out last week, I think everyone was sort of thinking, well, Tubbs is going to get the game today. He didn't. McGurk played well. I'd keep him up there, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's obviously another striker we're going to discuss later on in the programme, and Ryan Taylor. But before we move on to him, Jordy, also we need to discuss the fact that Pompey do seem to have a plan B now, a 3-5-2. Do you think Paul Cook might use that at some stage tomorrow? And are you also surprised that he admitted that he's never actually practiced this in training?
We were at the presser yesterday, and the fact that Cook says, you know, we don't practice 3-5-2. We stick with 4-2-3-1, and that was introduced at half time, and it was a key to the success over Barnet. Let's get it right. It got another attacking player on the pitch, and helped Pompey push on, and gets Webster into the team as well, and the two men up top. So it works in that respect. But I think what he was kind of saying in a roundabout way is you can't overcomplicate things for footballers. and it's true, you know, footballers aren't the brightest.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't really sort of overwhelm them with information. Just keep it simple. Ask for, you know, the job spec, which we keep talking about this season, keep that simple, what they're expected to do in a game. And football's not rocket science. So I mean, and that was what he was ebbing down. I didn't quite get to explore that in full detail with Cook, but yeah, that would be the interesting factor there for me. That, you know, you can't overcomplicate it. You will see it, I'm sure, but for me, probably 4-2-3-1 tomorrow.
Okay. Well, Jeff, as we mentioned, Rand Taylor is in the Oxford lineup probably for tomorrow's game. He hasn't had the best of starts. Do you think Pompey are missing him at all, or is that move worked for him so far?
I think the tail end of last season, obviously, he struck up a fantastic partnership, didn't he, with Matt Tubbs, and I think those two together looked like they were as good as anyone in the division come the end of last season. With Paul Cook coming in and the 4-2-3-1 being favoured, I don't think there would have been a place for Ryan Taylor in this position. I think he works best with Matt Tubbs or someone else up alongside him. So I don't think Pompey are missing him. Certainly they're not missing his goals because obviously, as you said, he hasn't got off the mark yet. But what I would say about Ryan Taylor is that I thought he was a good player for Portsmouth. I don't think that he was one of the ones come the end of the season when there was a few that were sort of out of contract when Pompey players and sort of fans or whatever were saying, oh, we can get rid of him, we don't want to keep him. I think both Ryan Taylor and Wes Fogden were the two that Pompey fans were looking at and thinking, well, they're clearly of a calibre that could do a job for us in this division. So, no, I don't think Pompey are missing Ryan Taylor, but do I think he'll get a good reception from the travelling Pompey fans? Yeah, for sure.
I'll explore it more in extra time, but there's a real debate about what happened with Taylor in the summer and contracts and what have you, but we can explore that a bit later.
Okay. Well, before we wrap up today, I'm going to get your predictions. I know it's probably one of the toughest tests Pompey will face this season, Jordy. Away from home, it promises to be another tough one.
I called it last week against Barnet 3-1, and then didn't back it myself.
He did.
I'm going to go for a draw. Look, it's a tough test. I expect Oxford to be there or thereabouts. With Plymouth, with Leyton Orient and Pompey, I'll take a 1 or a 2. I'll go for a 2.
Look, 2-all. Jeff, obviously Michael Apple's is in charge too. Will he have a point to prove, and can he engineer a win against Pompey?
Possibly he might have a point to prove. I don't think he'll see it that he does have a point to prove. I think that's a fair while ago, wasn't it? So much has changed since Michael Appleton was in charge of Portsmouth. So, no, I don't think he'll necessarily see it as a point to prove. But what we should touch on is obviously
scoreline.
Oxford's form. They were 14 unbeaten, weren't they, going up until the last game, and then they lost. So they're a team that has been in good form. Scoreline 1-1.
1-1. Okay, sitting on the fence then. Okay, well lads, thanks for your thoughts ahead of the game tomorrow. This has been Pompey Talk in partnership with Jan Leap. We'll see you next week. Goodbye.